We're standing near a busy 4-lane highway, so there will probably be traffic noise in the background. We're looking at the flowers of a winged elm tree. This is a pollen source for honeybees. This flowers before red maple. It happens that this particular tree was planted in the landscape, but it's a common native tree, especially in the counties south of here. The pollen is tan, I believe. So a lot of small flowers on this. Some are just opening.
So are these open?
Yeah, they're open.
The camera might be in focus right there. I thought this was a fungus, but you're telling me it's not.
It's not. It's a corky material occurring on either side of the twig, and gives the tree its name.
So
there aren't a lot of these in this county, but very, very common just south of us.
You know, our Walmart yard, I can actually see the bees in our Walmart yard up there, about a quarter-mile up the road. They were bringing this pollen in the other day in bucket loads, and at first I wasn't sure what it was, and now I understand.
They were probably bringing it in from this tree.
Yeah. Well, there'd have to be more than this one tree because there's 48 colonies up there, so there must be a couple more of these around the neighborhood. Yeah, interesting tree.
Yeah.
And then right behind it is a red maple tree that's going to bloom in about 2 weeks, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The red maple buds are swelling, so it won't be long.
Yeah. We got a pretty cold spell coming next week, so that'll set it back.
We're looking at a close-up of the pollen-producing catkins of our native alder. This is one of the first pollen sources in the spring. The female portion of the flower is up near my thumb, very small cones. These alders like to grow, in this case, on the edge of a man-made pond, but they also occur along streams. They do need sunlight. Overall, it's a rather common plant. And again, we're looking at a wind-pollinated plant that's rather common and is the earliest pollen source for this part of Georgia.
This is Mahonia. I've mentioned it in a few videos. It's a great pollen producer in the middle of winter in our region. Started in January and it's still going. Kind of getting towards the end of things, but still putting out pollen. It's tough as nails. It can take a hard freeze and bounce back within a couple days. Anytime the weather's good, the bees will be on this in midwinter. Also known as Oregon grape. Nice yellow pollen. This is a paper bush planted right in front of my house. It's great in the winter. It's the only thing blooming sometimes in January. Tough as nails, and the deer don't eat it. I have to have things that the deer won't eat. We have too many deer right in our yard all the time, and this is a good one. I can smell it from 50 feet away on a nice day. Today it's about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and I can still smell it, and there's a couple bees on it. It's tough as nails. It just keeps on blooming through the cold weather. I don't know how far north this thing can grow, but here in the southern Appalachians, it's a really good ornamental in your yard. It's not native. You do have to buy it and buy it from a nursery and plant it, but it works great. Wonderful bush. Right here in my front yard, along with some of these other things, I've got several crepe myrtles that bloom in summer. Some other things down, Vitec plants down on the bank there. I have a lot of bee plants in my front yard. I'm next door visiting my neighbor Jack. He has a lot of these camellias blooming in his front yard, and they're putting out pollen today. It's borderline temperatures. There's only a few bees flying, but the ones that are on top of these camellias. They're getting yellow pollen, and it's interesting how these camellias can bounce back after a hard freeze. Give them several days of nice weather, and they start putting out pollen again. I don't know if this would work any farther north than our location, but here it works. As long as we get some decent days in the winter, these things will put out a nice yellow pollen, and the bees jump all over it. And it doesn't take a lot of pollen this time of year to get the bees started laying brood. This and several other plants have been blooming, and our bees are starting to brood up in earnest now. I'll take a few more photographs of some of the other camellias he has in his yard. So there's a debate as to whether this thing's going to survive. It's gotten awfully small, but they are starting to bring in small amounts of pollen, which means in the middle there, between the two frames, it's 2 frames wide, there's probably a little egg laying going on. Last year it got to this size and it made it. We did an oxalic acid mite treatment in midwinter, so this should be pretty good on mites, and they might make it. If they don't, we'll repopulate with another nuke in March or April.